So science generally and people in general tend to be focused on the external body and its interactions. But these subtle layers are a little more difficult to deal with because you can't see them, they're not so visible. And especially when we speak about concepts like the ego, the sense of identity of a person, the mind, the intelligence, we start to enter into areas where you can't write an equation to describe them. You can't say this is a chemical composition of this element and that element. After all, if our mind's thoughts, every morning we wake up and we have several thoughts, several aspirations maybe, perhaps we are hungover from the previous day and we're wishing we hadn't done something. These are typical thoughts that most people have when they wake up in the morning. Oh no, I've got to go to work, or oh no, I've got to go and study today for a student. Oh God, I've got to take the kids to school. So many different anxieties come. How will I pay off this bill that is due to be paid next week? Multiple anxieties. And so these thoughts occupy all our lives. But clearly we can see that there are other forces at play rather than just our external activities and our external facilities. You can have two people in exactly the same situation and they behave completely differently. Two people can be given exactly the same opportunities in life, but what they do with it is completely different. One person becomes the leader of a company, maybe another person becomes the Prime Minister, and another person can't figure out what to do with their life 50 years down the line. But all three may have exactly the same facilities and the same features. So there is a subtle component at work which people don't think about generally. That is our psyche, that is our psychology. And then at a layer deeper than that, there is, as Maharaj mentions, the spirit soul, which is actually our real identity, our real self. We know as we grow from a young baby up to an adult, our mind changes, our thoughts change, the way we process information changes. But still our sense of identity remains the same. We become more competent at certain things, we become more skilled. We improve in so many ways. And then I'm sure it's everyone's experience, you don't need me to tell you, at a certain point things get a little dreary when old age starts to set in. I like to think up until around age 30 we're in quite a good mood, because we still think we're quite young. Up to 30 we're sort of still in the illusion that I'm still young, and life lies ahead of me and the world is my oyster. But then after that we start to get a sense, perhaps of a little responsibility, obligations. Perhaps the body stops being as useful or as helpful as it was. We get a little creak here, we groan a little. Things get a little tricky. And after 40, 50 we're no longer in the illusion that we're young and we can do whatever we like in the world. And we're forced to adopt a more mature way of thinking, a more mature outlook on life. And then in that way we progress. Our mind, our consciousness, our priorities start to change. And often we think when we're very young, we're trying to be as old as possible, as quickly as possible. If you ask a child at school which year they're in or how old they are, they will always try to make out that they're older or more mature than they actually are. I'm not 13, I'm 14. But when you get to 30, 40, you like to celebrate your 21st birthday again and again. So we're actually always hankering for a situation which we're not in. And so one of the techniques of spiritual life, or as uncovering this science of self-realization, as I believe the talk is entitled, the science of self-realization, is to focus ourselves on the present. To be here right now. Look at our situation now, our faculties, our facilities, the opportunities that lie ahead, the mistakes that we've made, We take it all into consideration, but we deal with the present. And this is one of the very important principles just to make it through life successfully. By being present at the moment, we actually consider what we should do.